Want to go deeper with Lobbing Scorchers? You know, scratch under the surface, get down even dirtier than we already get. Become a YouTube member. Sometimes things just get a little too spicy, a little too weird, and a little too loose for the general public. And you know, the people to see that are YouTube members. We're talking about exclusive bonus videos, the podcast after show, exclusive written content, and little bits and pieces of information before the unwashed masses know about it. As a member, you not only get access to all of this amazing content, you get a badge next to your name and a slew of amazing emotes to use, not only in our live stream chat, but also in our comments section. And yes, we do have an emote for Jesus Ferreira, Go Snack, and Paul Rothrock. This is the best way to help keep us independent and keep us building out this crazy YouTube brand that we call Lobbing Scorchers. Hit the join button down below or hit the link in the top of our description if you're on mobile to join the ranks and become a Lobbing Scorchers YouTube member.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. I'm Ari. That's Nico. We got a big show for you all here this morning. Apologies for a bit of a late start, but we're here now and we are rolling. The content is commencing. We got a lot to talk about. The Seattle Sounders, a second straight 1-0 victory, this time over Real Salt Lake. And we got decision day coming up. Seattle's going to be heading to the Big Apple, New York City FC, playing the New York Yankees outfield. And there's going to be a lot going on throughout the league. So it's going to be a big content week. Nico, what's up, man? How you feeling?
Hey, what's going on, Ari? Family of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. Thank you for being here. Of course, after a greedy win, they don't all have to be brilliant. They don't all have to be entertaining. You know, like one sir, Dom Toretto said one time, it doesn't matter if it's by an inch or a mile. A win is a win, baby. And sometimes you got to take it that way. And that's what happened to the Sounders, man. They went in, they did the work. So I'm ready to talk about it, man. Ready.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think you could say that about each of the last two games, both kind of gritty, grinded out 1-0 victories. The first one over Portland, you expect that from a derby. And then this one, I guess let's just start with the circumstances of the lineup, and then we'll talk about the game itself. Before we get into it, I do need you all to like the video, sub to the channel if you haven't, buy the Lobbing Scorchers hot sauce, support hacks and ferments, lobbingscorchers.com/sauce, and follow us on Instagram and YouTube. Become a YouTube member, all that good stuff. Nico, this RSL game, we started late, so let's just jump right into it. The lineup, there's a lot of guys missing. I went down the list on Under the Lights. Let's see if I still have it. Yeah, okay. Obed Vargas, Snyder Brunel, Reed Baker Whiting, Albert Rusnak, Georgie Manungu, Christian Roldan, Nuhu, Yamar, Kim Kee. I mean, am I missing anybody? Was that the whole list? You had a lot of guys out. And
I think those are the important ones, because I did have a little bit of an issue with in the broadcast. They were talking about 11 guys, because I'm sure they're referring to Ariola and Ryan Kent. Yeah, like those
shouldn't, the guys who are already out on
exactly. Those shouldn't be part of that. So no, that's the list.
The starting 11 itself, I mean, it was rotated. There was a lot of guys missing who would be in the first choice 11, but it was only like, I think we counted it like 3 or 4 changes from the Portland game. So the 11 was decently strong. It was when you got to the bench where you know, you had extreme call-ups. You had Antino Lopez. Why am I blanking on the
Peter Kingston, Tino Lopez, and Seba Gomez.
Pete, that's the obvious one that I was missing. You had Pete out there. Pete actually got some minutes, which that was cool to see. But I guess, Nico, to start it off, what did you make of how the team was able to pull out this result? You know, even with all these guys missing, it's kind of that's a test of your depth, and that's a test of your, I think, fortitude to an extent. What did you make of how they handled all the absences and just this performance against RSL? You get the early goal from Rothrock, which was great. I thought the whole first half hour was honestly excellent. That's the best they've looked since Leagues Cup, I think, by far. That first like 30, 35 minutes. And then you have the penalty kick as well. So what did you make of that whole match against RSL?
Look, I was satisfied with that performance, and I know that a lot of people were upset about, this is also an RSL team that was missing key players, and you're at home and you missed the PK, and you had opportunities, and the same problems are there. I have a hard time saying the same problems remain when you're playing without 8 to 9 players. You are having to call in Tacoma Defiance guys. You had 3 players that at one point in time needed to come out because they have some sort of limitation. JP, Jordan Morris, and Pedro de la Vega, you knew that they were going to come out. So to me, going into this game and doing a little bit of radio there in Spanish, first thing I said is, the first 60 minutes will tell you exactly where the Sounders stand, and that's going to be the key to the game, right? Because once those 60 minutes are up, you're forced to get into that very light, only 17 player deep, rotation. Obviously, you have 3 guys that are new, but you still don't have a full bench. Most of the players that you had in from the senior team were 2 attackers, that you were probably just going to need one of those. So there just wasn't a lot of options, but I was encouraged by a lot of it, man. Look, I would hope that by now people know that I'm far from an optimist and a guy that's always going to be looking at the bright side.
You're not a Glazer. Not me. You're not a Glazer.
Not a Glazer at all. So for me, I thought that the first 40 minutes, maybe 37 minutes, 37, 40 minutes of that game were great. Were great for the circumstances that you had. I thought that the spacing was phenomenal. I thought that they controlled possession. They controlled the tempo. I thought that they were good defensively. This was a team that JP hasn't, played since May. And he looked great, man. He was a guy, start since May. And he is a guy that looked great on the ball. He was consistently helping out the build out. I thought that he was good defensively, physically there. He had 2 or 3 great balls in the time he was in to start off a transition moment. One of them, I want to say, was to Kalani, and his, the outside of the boot, and he curls perfectly. I thought that JP showed you that he is a guy that you could rely on moving forward, and that's huge as it is, because you had that question mark of where JP is. So I thought that was a big one. Danny Leyva, as someone who is, one of the main candidates to eventually take over if Obed Vargas does make that move away from this team, I thought he looked very good. I tweeted that there were 2 things in display. One, his passing ability and technical ability, which we knew he's always had, but he also put in display his growth on his defensive effort and his reach and athleticism, which is something that was a criticism of Danny Leyva. I think he's worked hard to better that. There's a couple of runs late in that game that he's making now that maybe he wasn't making a couple of years ago. So that's another encouraging thing for me. And the Jordan Morris situation, look,
let's get into it.
Jordan Morris, I thought that run that he makes to get the ball back, because he's pressing, he gets it, runs into the 18, and then passes. That drawback pass at the end line, that's something that he has just
that was a great
zeroed
assist.
in.
That was a great assist. Like,
it was a great assist, and he's done it before.
On the missed PK, he hasn't scored a goal since he got back. He's missed a couple of chances. I think that's his 2nd assist since he's got back, and we should acknowledge that he looked dangerous. He was a contributor to that excellent first 35, 40 minutes that we were talking about. He gets the assist, and he wins the penalty that he ended up missing with
absolutely
a dangerous play. So while people are going to harp on the missed PK, I think we should be real about the totality of his performance. There was some good stuff in there. He looked a lot more, I think, like the Jordan Morris of old. But sorry, I cut you off. What did you make of that of the whole situation with the PK? You know, you have Ferreira and De La Vega out there. That those, if we were kind of talking the press box, we're like, who's going to take this right now? Who takes this? There's no Rusnak who takes it. And I was like, all right, probably Jesus Ferreira. Jesus Ferreira takes the ball and he does the little like I'm going to take it thing. But Jordan ends up taking it. It gets saved. What did you think of just the decision to have him take it? The logic behind it, and can you understand why they had him take it, even if it didn't work out? And I also think, I mean, tell me what you think of this, but I also think there's a decent possibility that it's not like he was like, no, I need to take it to get myself going. I think Jesus Ferreira was. I think there was probably part of him that was like, I'm going to let Jordan take it. I don't know. That's just
it sounded as I expected it to be, that it was a player decision. So that to me makes it all that much better, because if Jordan Morris was insistent on taking it or was willing to take it because he knows that he's got to get himself right, he's putting himself in a position where he knows the outcome. I mean, it could either be great for my confidence or it could be worse if that penalty gets saved. But I thought that the courage to go out there and get on the spot is big. The camaraderie, like you mentioned, whether it was Alex Roldan or Ferreira, who were the two guys that I would have thought would have taken that PK, wanted him to have it. That all works well for me, right? I think that you should be able to allow your striker to get some confidence. Now, there's the other side of the coin, which is it was a poor taking penalty, wasn't very good, wasn't placed, didn't have a lot of pace. It's a great save by Cabral.
It had the pace, but it's not a good height, not really good.
Yeah, it's not well placed.
Yeah, it's a good save. It's a good save.
Yeah, it is a great save, right? He's Cabral is a guy that is pretty good at him, right? He's 50, he's batting 500, right? He's stopped 4 out of 8 this year. And just he reads it well too. So that's the negative part of it. But for Jordan to just get that out of the way, you know, and in a moment of the game that you knew wasn't going to cost anyone, right? Because had it been a different circumstance late in the game, needed to win, and he's like him or the group decides that he's going to take it, maybe you could harp on that a little more, whether selfishness or wrong decision or whatever. But I thought that with the lead, and this is something that Jeremiah and Tim kind of helped me digest a little bit at the press box, was that you know, the moment in time where the penalty was taken, you know, there wasn't as much pressure, but it was a good moment to potentially get ahead. So there was more to be won than lost in that particular time. Now, you know, I'm talking with, you know, the newspaper under my arm, where I know that the result didn't get taken away, and I know people are going to comment on that, but I still think that regardless of, the Sounders were in such control over, you know, 35 minutes of the game that, you know, they gave themselves a good opportunity to win, and therefore I didn't think that the decision was bad.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, the way I think of any kind of in-game decision that you have to make like that during a given game, in this case, who takes a penalty, the way I look at it is, if it backfires, I try and think of it from a lens of like, all right, can I at least understand why they did it, you know? And if the process behind how you got to the result makes sense to me, and I can at least understand why you did it, then, you know, then I can live with it if it backfires. And in this case, you know, you have your DP number 9 coming back from injury. Been a frustrating year. He's barely played this year because he's been injured all year. He is looking okay since he got back, but not really. Like, he feels like he hasn't fully gotten going yet. You got a penalty kick at a point in the game against a team that you're way better than, that you're beating the shit out of at the time. You're already ahead 1-0. If that game is tied and it's late, then I probably, late in the game, like tie game's in the balance, and you have a guy who has never taken a PK in an MLS game taking it, That's where I would question him more. But I think with the game being in that situation, I could understand why they had him take it. You stand to benefit a lot if he hits that. It is risky from the sense that if you have it saved, I think Jordan is like a confidence player to a degree. All number 9s kind of are confidence players to a degree, and he's no different. So I understand why they did it, even if it didn't work out. And luckily, it didn't end up costing them the result in this case. It almost did, though, Nico. It almost did. They did do their level best to blow another lead at home. They looked like they gave up the equalizer, and then VAR to the rescue. It was correctly waved off. But that was still, there was a couple of frustrating parts of this game. The fact that they couldn't get the second goal after the saved penalty was a little frustrating. And then just the fact that they got that close to another blown lead, it's just like, oh my God. Like when he scored that equalizer that ended up getting waved off, it just was like so exasperating because you're like, all right, like you felt like you knew it was coming. So that was pretty frustrating. But Nico, I wanted to ask you, the surprisingly to me, some of the hottest discourse on the post-game show was regarding Danny Musovski. People were really frustrated at the yellow card that he took, where he I can't remember exactly what he fouled a guy in a pretty dangerous spot for a free kick that gave them a look at the equalizer. And then also I think with the he, out of all the crash out red card boys, his crash out red card in League's Cup was one of the worst. So I think people were frustrated about that. Noah said that sent him over the edge and that he wants Moose off the team next year. And I was like, yeah, well, I was like, that seems reactionary. But I'll tell you, there was a few people in chat and at least one person who called in who agreed. I think what it is, Nico, is like, I think people are just kind of tired of the crash out red card boys. Like when he committed when he took that yellow, they get a dangerous free kick. It's just like one of those needless things where you put yourself in, if you put yourself in enough situations to choke the equalizer, you're going to choke the equalizer. This has happened a lot over the last few weeks. I don't understand why this foul from Moose gets singled out compared to anyone else who's crashed out this year. This team's got 9 red cards. He didn't even get sent off. If he got sent off in this situation, I would understand it more. But we were talking about about Moose's status on the team for next year, because I was saying I am not on this page of I'm not pressed about the yellow that he took. It's kind of annoying, but it's whatever. But I do think if you look at this roster for next year and how they're going to handle it and keep the guys that they want to keep, you're not going to be able to keep everybody. There are going to be decisions that are going to have to be made. There's just a very strong argument strategically for trading Moose with the year that he's had this year, pumping up his value like it has. You could probably get a lot for him, and then the resources that you can theoretically get from him in a trade, you can use to either keep someone else that you might not have been able to keep, or kick towards someone else that you bring in at another position that you want to strengthen, and then you still have Jordan and Osaze, who's had a great year in that position group as well. And then you also have a situation where what the blueprint of what they did with Moose, could you theoretically replicate that again? I mean, the scouting department and the analytics team, they cooked on this signing. They saw a guy that his underlying numbers and his efficiency numbers were excellent. He had just never gotten a full complement of minutes to see if he could have a season like the season that he's having this year. And they took the bet that we believe that if we put this guy who has these attributes and these underlying numbers in our system with our chance generation, he'll probably eat. That's the bet they made, and it paid off handsomely. And the result is now you got a player whose value is skyrocketed. It's higher than it's ever been. That's the best time to trade somebody. So really, you could take all the crash out yellows and red cards aside, and the strategic argument for trading Moose this offseason would still be a pretty strong one. I mean, it's at least something that that's going to get talked about, and they're definitely. I mean, they're as they evaluate what they're going to do next year, they're thinking about that. So, I mean, what do you think of the yellow card discourse? Does that do anything for you? And then
No,
but like,
no,
and then I guess the general concept of trading Moose and then how they should handle the number 9 for next year.
no. I think you basically touched on everything that we've talked about in the past, and I feel like that's not just my thought process. I think that as an organization, and you know, reading in between the lines of what we've heard Craig Weibel said, that's going to be the case. The little bit of attitude issue is almost portrayed as a little bit whiny at times, but then it is crash outs. This is something that he does even at training. Like he'll get up, he'll have those little tantrums. I mean,
he's crash out. Noah described him at one point as crash out adjacent.
He is.
I didn't realize he really had
is.
that much of it to him until the Leagues Cup, and then since then I'm like, okay, yeah,
and sometimes it comes off as a little bit of a tantrum. Sometimes it comes off aggressive. So there is a thing there, but it doesn't sway me anyway. Because look, at the end of the day, his performance this year, I feel like, yes, has to do a lot with him getting on this hot streak, but it also has to do with the volume of play that has clearly raised compared to years prior. You know, I asked Brian about it, and he said he's been trying to do it his whole career, but this is as dynamic as I've seen a Sounders team be. And that's why I'm so encouraged on things that I saw in this RSL game, because conceptually, the identity is still there regardless of who's there. The pressing, in this one, they press like a 3-4-3. The volume of play, the movements, the spacing, all this stuff is good. So when you have a guy like Danny Musovski, I think that you can go out there and very easily replace him, keeping the system intact and those other players that amplify that, and go out there and get yourself a poacher for a lot less and with less crash out
adjacent tendencies.
Exactly. So for me, it is clear that regardless of the yellow or not, like, again, I don't, it doesn't sway me in either way. When he did it, and I think that people probably got upset that he kind of goes hard at the ref, and that's what got him in trouble last time.
It was like similar to what he did in Leagues Cup.
Yeah.
It's just like, dude.
Exactly. So those are the things that, they don't really sway me any other way, because I know his limitations. I think that you're absolutely right. You got to sell high when you got him low, especially when you've kind of rescued his career in a certain sense, and then you let him go and you go find somebody else. So that to me is written in stone. I really don't expect him to be part of this team in 2026.
There was just like a moment when, you know, he was going at the ref or whatever, where, I mean, it's impossible with how this year has gone, when those situations come up, to not be like, okay, here we go. You know, the Timbers game, as soon as Rusnak went into that tackle, it was like, all right, yep, there it is. And then that, like, when Moose was doing his thing in this game, I did have that same thought go through my head. Jacob says, red card fatigue. We have red card fatigue. Any red card or card at this point is exhausting and feels way worse than it is potentially. And yeah, I get that. I mean, he didn't get sent off. I think, let's be fair, you know, I get why people are reacting like that. Trust me, I have as much red card fatigue as anybody. But like in this situation, he didn't end up getting sent off. It was just a yellow. But I do understand where people are coming from. Jacob getting the super chat train rolling. Appreciate you.
Hey, Jacob.
He says Moose has increased his value dollars wise this year. It's most likely can only go down moving forward. Sell him while his stock is high. Exactly. That is that's the thinking behind it, and just purely strategically, I do think the idea of like, oh, you can just go replace Moose probably pretty easily for a lot cheaper. That's easier said than done. I think Moose makes what he's done this year look easy, but I'm telling you guys, like, a high level poacher like that is actually, it's not easy to do, number one, and it's not that easy to find. Like,
yeah, but the problem is that he's not a high level poacher. He has one high level poaching season. He's had a season. And like I told you before, Jeremy Ling had a season, and Sir Mix-a-Lot had,
I don't know about that, though. I don't know about that though, because if you look at his underlying numbers from before he got to Seattle, I think he's always been this level of player. He just didn't get the minutes. That was why it was such like a good find.
Maybe, but he had minutes last season, and again, you always. The reason why a lot of times we do what we do is just so people get a little bit of the insight, and even in training, it wasn't like he was lighting it up. You know what I mean? So I think that, without disrespecting him, of course, and understanding that you got to give him credit for what he's done this year, to me, you have to look at the longevity of someone's consistency to really call him a high-level poacher, like Chicharito Hernandez. That's a high-level poacher. He's done it his whole career. He's done it with little minutes, with bunch of minutes. He's done it at the national team level, club team level. Huh?
He's Chicharitoing this year, Moose is.
Yeah, exactly. He definitely is, and that's great. You need those guys to do it, but I just don't know if it'd be hard to find a guy that's going to give you that. Not to mention the fact that this team has a real need to go and find the next best thing at the striker position. It's just a must, right? As much as I love Jordan Morris, again, I've said it a million times, you got to go look for that replacement. So there's going to be one more guy that you bring in. If you want an experienced guy again within MLS, I think that you can go out there and get yourself a guy that's going to give you a couple of goals, 10, if not 7 or 8, because you shouldn't be counting on Moose having another season like this one. You should be focusing on Jordan Morris having a season like he had a couple of years ago, getting him healthy, making sure that he's your guy, and then having this new U22 that you go out there and get to be that replacement to Jordan Morris. I just think that there's a broader spectrum than just focusing on Danny or what Danny could do, or that replacement of Danny, which would be an experienced MLS player. Just say it in that way. So yeah, I think there's bigger things at play than what we do with that's Moose's spot.
Yeah, Scott says D-Row has earned it. I think that's something that you got to think about too. Is he was doing essentially a lot of the same stuff that Moose was doing. I think coming out of MLS Next Pro, he was banging in goals and is a younger player. Maybe,
and he's a more complete attacker, in my opinion.
Yeah, and more like theoretical future upside as well. Like Moose, this is his peak. D-Row theoretically hasn't reached his peak. He hasn't been getting as many minutes since Jordan came back. He was about to get in this game, was he not? And then didn't Schmetz switch the sub? Isn't that what happened? Like he had D-Row coming in, and then the VAR took away the goal. And then he switched it with either, I think it was Kingston who he switched it with. But hopefully Osaze gets some more minutes, maybe in this decision day game, and then we'll see what happens in the playoffs. Nico, anything else on this RSL game before we move on? I mean, we hit the PK discussion, we hit the Moose discussion, we hit the lineup discussion. It was a big win. I think, you got 2 wins in a row now after not winning since the Leagues Cup final. The Timbers game, I feel like there was some good stuff, but maybe not like a totally complete performance. I don't think this was a complete performance either, but I did think it was very encouraging. I was encouraged to see how they played for most of the first half. Didn't that feel just more like the team that we saw in Leagues Cup, with how well the press was working? They were on top of RSL. That was nice to see. They got the early goal. That was nice to see. And then also, I mean, I think the thing that I've loved about this team this year is just how the volume of chances that they're creating, and then the quality of the chances they're creating. I mean, I think this is the best attacking Sounders team I've seen maybe ever, just in terms of from the standpoint of like how many chances that they generate, and just when they get locked in, like it's a high powered, really productive, really like fun to watch offense. So it was good to see them tap into that level.
And the stats back it up. Like for me, I'd have to do some real I don't know, soul searching, because to me, the best attack this team has ever had continues to be Jordan, Raul, Nico triangle. Love that. I just thought that it was so good when all those guys were healthy. Maybe healthy could be the reason why it never broke out this way. I don't know. But this team does feel like they create a lot more chances. XG wise, just the volume of play, the amount of chances. But in terms of talent, I don't know why I can't get away from that. Those
You're
three
Raul,
at their
you're
peak.
a Raul guy. You're a Raul guy.
Yeah, Raul, Nico. I mean, Nico first, then Raul, then and then Jordan. I mean, those three guys in their prime just kind of tells you, it's like, man, that should be the best attacking, but it really doesn't feel like that. That this is a team that consistently throughout the whole season, regardless of having a lot of injuries, and that's something that I saw out on the fact that they've only lost one game at home all season. And they did that with all the injuries and all the things, and they still kept their identity. I think that's huge, and that's why I continue to say that. I feel like this is the best coaching job that I've seen Brian do, and you can see it in his smile when I asked him about the offense, and he feels like he's succeeded, and I believe him. I've given him a lot of credit this year for. I called it reinvented himself, but maybe that's not it, because he's been trying to do it, but just succeeding with this particular group to getting him going. But there are a couple of things that I want to touch on before we do discuss, hopefully very briefly, the unveiling of the Leagues Cup banner. But there's a couple of things here. Once again, there's the positives, the negatives. For me are a couple. One of them is that if there is a recurring factor, is just the decision making. I think Kalani is a guy that's so good at times, and he gets in such good positions, but his vision sometimes is not quite there. There's a transition moment where if he sees Ferreira on his left side making a run and he leads him on, Ferreira is straight on goal for an opportunity.
The whole stadium, man. The whole stadium was yelling.
Everybody was pointing, right?
He just passed it the wrong way.
Yeah, and then there was another one with Kalani again where he makes a great play on the ball. He sustains it well. He gets in the inside channel. And again, he just he's very narrow visioned at times, tunnel visioned. And you got Rothrock asking for the ball at the top of the corner of the 18, doesn't see him. I think Ferreira had a couple of moments where also maybe he holds the ball a little bit too long there at the final end, although he was very good. He was great. I'm not trying to say that he didn't have a great game. I'm just saying that those little moments are what I think at some point Seattle needs to do a lot better in order to get through in the playoffs. And then finally, I thought that you got to credit RSL as well. Mastrani did a great job at understanding, look, in the second half is when we need to press and push and do certain things. And as soon as it was the 45-minute, the second half, it started, he hiking up his line, hiking up his confrontation line. He knew that he had Russell on the bench, Agata on the bench. He had those guys ready to go, while the Sounders, they didn't have that depth. They didn't have that ability to match player for player. And then you saw that really push the Sounders deep into their own third, and that's when the team got a little bit disjointed. JP comes off, you get Stu in, who, by the way, we got to give credit to Stu. I thought he was very good. Yep. I wanted to see him on. We needed to see him on because we still don't know what's going to happen with Kim Ki-hee. We know Yemer won't be there for New York City FC. We hope that he's there for the first round of the playoffs. But you need to figure out if Stu can handle his business. And I thought he did. I thought he handled it well. And of course, Alex did too at the center back position, but you likely don't want him there. So I thought Stu coming in was great. But you got to credit RSL because I think that they did a good job at knowing when to bring guys in to really push the boundaries and really pin back a Sounders team that, was a little bit gassed after the 60th minute. And then the guys that came on, I thought Peter Kingston was okay. I honestly wanted to see Seba Gomez more than I wanted to see Peter Kingston. But Peter Kingston was okay. Obviously, his first start, couple of bad touches and a couple of bad decisions, but still did decent work. And then Lopez coming in and kind of playing left back, more of a stay home type of left back. I thought was okay, was something that I wanted to see. But yeah, that's all I have in terms of the game. Stephen Fry, another clean sheet. That's also in my notes. Obviously wasn't tested all too much, but when he did, he responded. Once again, his distribution was outstanding. Traffic control, the way he just leads that goal line, I think is important. And I think that's all I have, man. Oh, and of course, De La Vega and Rothrock, great all game.
Okay,
I thought Rothrock was big and De La Vega was big.
That's where I was going to go, because we got Pat talking about can we talk about Pedro on the right? Still good, but I thought it really contrasted with him being so elite on the left. I thought De La Vega was excellent in this game. I thought he was great. I thought he was cooking. I think what was frustrating for me is that they couldn't get more than one goal in the game for how well De La Vega and Jesus Ferreira both played. I felt like they, based on the danger that both of those guys were generating, especially in the first half, they really they deserved more than one goal. But in a way, that's a positive, because if they keep playing, if Jesus Ferreira and De La Vega play like that in the playoffs, the chances in the goals will be there 100%. So I was encouraged to see that from that standpoint. But I mean, did you see anything different from De La Vega as far as his? I feel like he was floating around a lot. He was playing with a lot of energy. He was flying around. It was almost like he was. It reminded me a little of the Nico days, where he would just kind of play wherever, and that was just great to see, because he's got this tendonitis thing going on. Wasn't playing at all for a couple of games there, and I thought he looked awesome. I thought he looked like the player that we saw in Leagues Cup, which was great to see.
Yeah, I thought Pedro had a lot of freedom, and I think this is where me and Jeremiah were having a discussion. He saw it more as a 4-2-3-1 in the attack. I think most of the time I saw it more like a 3-4-2-1, because I think that Ferreira and Pedro had just a lot of interchange and a lot of freedom in those inside channels, in those pockets inside, and the guys giving you the width were Kalani on one side and Paul Rothrock in the other, which of course you get a lot of those same concepts from the 4-2-3-1. So I guess that's why we have that debate of what it was. But I do think that Pedro had a phenomenal game again, and it's not just the assist, which was it accidental or not? I mean, I still think that he was trying to get the ball here. I think on the right side,
he was not. He
gets it on the left.
He was not trying to do that.
Gets his foot out.
This is why secondary assists are good, actually.
Yeah,
because a situation like that, Jordan Moore, it would be really unjust if De La Vega got an assist on that play and Jordan didn't get anything.
But his position and spacing, I think that was excellent. I think him and Ferreira, they're certainly building a little bit of an excellent rapport, and Ferreira is slowly really getting into the group. I really love to see that. By the way, he for all our audience, check out his Twitch. Is it Twitch? Is that what it's called? Yeah, I think it's Twitch.
Oh,
he does streaming. He does streaming. He's going to be doing a lot more of it. He just did a stream last night, I think, of just him playing FIFA. But I think he's going to be doing a lot of the stuff he used to do in Dallas, where he'll bring on, guys from the team and talks to them. And sometimes it's FIFA, sometimes it's other stuff. So check that out. I think that's interesting when, guys have that secondary passion for other things. Some people don't like it. Some people do. Sometimes he goes well, sometimes it doesn't. Kun Agüero and Javier Jesus Hernandez, they kind of rub people the wrong way. I don't know if Ferreira will be that. I think Ferreira will do it correctly, but just check that out. But no, I thought it was good. But Paul Rothrock too. I don't want to have his effort go unnoticed. I thought that, there was a couple of times where maybe he wasn't as sharp in the final third. Of course, he gets the goal, but I thought defensively, man, he was just so all over the field. There's that moment where he picks up a ball in our own 18, and for some reason, the ref stops the run of play, and he's like, what's going on, man? Because he was getting ready to just rocket on that side. So I thought that his effort overall was just very good throughout the whole game. So Paul continuing to make a case for all his contract negotiations, which, oh, by the way, he told us he didn't want to talk too much about it, but it wasn't quite there yet. So obviously team's still trying to extend his contract. He's on those negotiations. So maybe that's something that we also want to throw out there because it was part of what we heard from the team afterwards.
Real quick, what do you make of that whole situation? Because my impression of it, Nico, I don't know if you've heard similar rumblings, but what I've heard is that they are not particularly close on what the number is, and that I mean, we don't know what the outcome is. We don't know how these negotiations go. Like, maybe when you're negotiating, sometimes you ask for like the maximum and then you come down and the sides meet in the middle. But it does seem like there's like a possibility that that Rothrock might let him walk, because everyone knows that he has earned a substantial raise, but how much of a raise, I think, becomes the question. But you have a guy who's been such an integral part of the team this year. But I think another factor is like how they've kind of propped him up as like the face of the team in some ways, as far as all the marketing and stuff they were doing with him in Leagues Cup and like trading the Messi jerseys and stuff. When you do all that stuff, you kind of plant the idea probably in the players' camp's mind that they're worth even more than they would have already been asking for anyway. I don't know. That's just my kind of read on it. But have you heard anything on that, or do you have any thoughts on how those negotiations might pan out? Because like we haven't talked about it that much, but that's going to be one of the like testier ones, I think. Like, he's going to be deservedly, rightfully asking for a big raise, and I just don't know if the team is going to give him what he's asking for.
Yeah. So, I talked about this on Thursday on Soccer Down Here, but I'll just repeat what we talked about. I understand that Paul Rothrock is an older player that came into the scene late in just terms of soccer. Well, in terms of sports in general, right? I mean, he's 26. So I understand that he needs a payday because not many of those are coming his way in the near future. In soccer, by the time you're 30, you're kind of thought of as already going downhill. So he's got to get it while he can get it. However, I do think that there is a way to go about it. And as much as I have been a Paul Rothrock guy, and I absolutely understand maybe more than most what he provides and the skill set that is so important, you cannot go from $104,000 in salary, which is what the last time the MLSPA put out the numbers, to the 800s, to the 900s.
That's what he's trying to do too.
That's what I think is happening. And of course, his agent wouldn't be his agent if he wasn't asking for the world. So I get that till about there, but there's going to be a moment where I hope that the right choice gets made. And he's like, okay, we're not going to get it. Let's settle at 6 to 7. I put that line because that's what they gave Jackson Reagan, which is a very similar situation because both Jackson and Paul, as we all know, they've been so together in their whole lives and careers that they both kind of came in as walk-ons to the Sounders. And now they're this success story, which is phenomenal, but you cannot skip that much ahead because it's just not the way things happen. Not to mention the fact that Paul Rothrock, I think, a lot benefits from this system. And
that's the argument they're going to make.
And I don't want to undervalue his skill set again or his talent. And I don't want to, sell him short. But the reality is that there's a lot of competition at the winger position. You got Georgie, Pedro, Ferreira, eventually Paul Arriola. We'll see what happens with Ryan Kent. Kalani plays that position. Reed Baker-Whiten plays out wide. There's just so many other options that it would be very hard for the Sounders to look at their roster construction and say, yes, I think that we need to pay Paul Rothrock $900,000 to stay. So I think both parties would benefit by coming to a settlement on that $600,000 to $700,000 area, because I feel like they both need each other. And the last thing I would want, as someone who has enjoyed and really learned to value what Paul Rothrock does for this team, last thing I want is for him to bet on himself, decide to move on, and then his career is no longer the same and it completely goes downhill. And maybe that next step, he gets one payday, but then it stops after that, right? So whether it's he thinks he can get to the championship, or whether it's that he thinks he can go to another MLS team, or whatever it is that his agent, his group himself are thinking that might be next, I feel like would be better served if he continues to push us up his value in a team that will be playing CONCACAF Cup next year or in the future, that will be a contender, that is clearly a protagonist in MLS, rather than trying to figure out where you're going to fit him next and where you might or might not get minutes moving forward.
He could go to DC United or Atlanta United and they will pay him more money than Seattle will. They will. Like that. Those teams like that, they need players like Paul Rothrock and
Sporting Kansas City is a team that I thought he could do wonders.
Yeah, it's just, I think the question is, like, if you go to a team like that, will you be set up for success in the same way that you are
correct
on this team? You know, maybe if that's a bet that he wants to make. Like, I'm the type of player that moves the needle to the point where if I go to a team like that, like I make them better to the point where like it's a good move and it'll make sense, then I will never fault a player for betting on themselves and for taking, like you said, like there's a finite amount of time you have as an athlete to maximize your earning potential. But it's tough. You got to weigh both things. Nico, before we hit decision day or playoffs, was there any? The banner. Yeah, let's talk about the banner a little bit, and then we'll hit decision day and playoff stuff. What did you have on the banner ceremony? They did unveil the Leagues Cup banner. That was pretty cool. They did it up. They know how to do a ceremony, and I guess my thought on it is it went a lot better than the last time they unveiled a banner at Lumen Field, which was famously in 2022 when they unveiled the CONCACAF Champions League banner against the Portland Timbies, very clearly with the intent of rubbing it in their face type of thing. And then the Timbies did their thing, played like Real Madrid and won 3-0. That was not that fun. This was a lot better of a way to commemorate the Leagues Cup title with a good performance and a victory than the last time. And I guess the other thing I was thinking about during that ceremony was just like, God, look how many banners this team has put up there. I'm going to say something controversial. People aren't going to like it. My friends don't like it when I say this. This is the only team in this city that consistently like wins.
That's
look at
true.
Look at who actually puts the banners in that building. My friends who are like, Seahawks fans, Mariners fans, they don't like it when I point this out. Who puts the banners in the building? Yeah, I will say Seattle sports was an incredible weekend for Seattle sports. The Seahawks got the dub, and the Mariners, I want to give them their credit. Like, they've been irrelevant for a long time, but they're in the freaking ALCS right now. They won game 1 in Toronto. They might actually go to the World Series. So they are in the process of like getting over their reputation. But if you look at like the recent history, like let's just be real. There's one team in this city that puts rings on fingers, puts banners in the building, and it's this team. And the people who don't want to acknowledge that are like people who say that it doesn't count because they play in Major League Soccer, which is not the number 1 ranked league in the world. That's a bad point. It's a stupid point. I got a lot of friends that make that point. It's a horrible point. MLS is the top flight league in this country, so it's the highest level of domestic like league competition that they can possibly play in, and they've been one of the best teams in that. And then that point is further undermined by the fact that they have now won 2 international like continental titles in CONCACAF Champions League and Leagues Cup. So it's not even just about being the best team in MLS, whatever you think of the league. It's about like winning those international tournaments too, which are a way bigger deal, which this team has done. So I always try and give the Sounders their due in the local space for the amount of winning that they do. Cause like I said, man, like just look at that stadium, look at the banners that are hanging in it. Who's hanging them? Who's hanging them? That's what I got to say about that.
Yeah, no, actually, ironically, and this was a conversation that we struck with Jada Evans and Jeremiah Shen, where they made me realize that, I always thought that maybe the Sounders were the second more popular team in the city, but the Mariners might be actually.
Seattle Storm have won a bunch of titles too. It's the Sounders and the Storm; those are the ones that win.
Yeah, and they're the least popular. That's the funny part, that they actually made a very good point, that the Mariners are actually the most popular team in the city, and now that they're winning, you could see it. I mean, I've been to, like, I don't know, Red Robin and just like random restaurants where it was a packed bar full of people watching the game. I mean, it's everywhere. It's all over. But it is kind of ironic that probably the least successful franchise out of all of them is the most popular. And then I actually didn't realize the Hawks haven't been in an NFC championship game since 2015.
No,
that is a while. I don't know why it felt like it was just like a couple of years ago.
They've been irrelevant for like a decade. They're getting relevant.
Crazy.
They've been irrelevant.
Crazy.
What did you think of the ceremony? Yeah.
I thought it was great. I thought it was, as expected. I liked the banner. I thought it looked nice. I like the fact that the Champions Cup is obviously bigger. I still would like to see something else more structurally sound for as you mentioned, the success that the Sounders have done within Lumen. And I understand that it's not the Sounders Stadium, and, a lot of things probably go into debate. But I thought it was great. I thought it was phenomenal. I wanted to talk about it because I spoke to DeAndre Jetlin, and you could find this interview on Sounder Out Hard on YouTube. And
bring him home. Bring him home.
I would love to. I should have asked that afterwards too, but I didn't get a chance. So he did say that he'd love to come home, but that was off the mics at some point. But the reality is that he's been watching, and he had no problem saying how proud he was of what the Sounders had accomplished, in the time he was gone. And he reminded us that he was the Sounders' very first homegrown player. Yeah. And he talked about the fact that he's just proud that so many more have come after him. And talked about Siggy Smith, who, by the way, if you're an Alliance member and you have a vote for the Sounders Eternal Circle of Legends, get that vote in. I think it's a super cool thing. You got Jimmy Gabriel, Siggy Smith, and Casey Keller as the 3 nominees. So if you're an Alliance member, if you have a chance, if you are available to vote, go ahead and get that in. I think you have till the end of the day tonight. So go ahead and get that, because I think it's a pretty cool thing that the Sounders are doing to continue to build this culture, this community, and this history. And they're one of the very few teams in MLS that can actually have true roots to their history. So go ahead and help on that regard. But he talked about Siggy Smith and all of it. You could see that the unveiling of that banner meant something to DeAndre Jetlin, a guy that has had a huge career outside of the Sounders. And at the end of the day, he was only here a couple of years and he was gone, but he feels it in here. And I felt like everybody of those 32,000 plus that were in that stadium, they felt it the same. So I was proud to see it. I love to see the grin in Brian Smutzer's face when it was coming down. He was just in a very good mood. You could tell he tried to scare Jeremiah by smacking the back of the benches. I mean, he was just like a kid in Christmas, and I like to see that part of Brian, because you could tell how much it means to him. So I thought it was great overall.
He was happy at the presser too, but people were talking about it in chat at the beginning of the show. He got a little testy on a couple of the questions at the end, and then you guys had a little thing.
Yeah, and then I kind of ruined it at the end. I was trying to banter with him a little bit, because I was going to ask about the banner. He was like, "You guys didn't ask about the banner." So then when he didn't ask about, when he just kind of shared his opinion, I decided to go for another one. And I should have asked about DeAndre, but I ended up just throwing the Danny Leyva thing out there, which was completely offside of that next question.
He was trying to get out of there at that point.
He was trying to get out of there, but then I did a poor job asking that last question. I think if I would have asked about DeAndre, he might have sat down and be like, "Oh, da da da," but he didn't, because he didn't need to, because it was a bad question.
Yeah, it happens. Nico, let's talk some playoffs and decision day. What do you want to do first? What are you feeling? Do you want to talk playoff matchups or about NYC?
No, let's go chronological. Let's go decision day, and then we'll end up with the playoffs.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you got decision day coming up. Seattle's off to the Big Apple. New York City, they're going to play in the New York Mets outfield. I keep saying Yankees. You're going to play in the New York Mets outfield, which is always a fun time. Nico, this game does not really matter in the standings. Fifth place is locked down, and I think this is definitely the lowest stress decision day since they started doing this. If they lose the game, it literally does not matter. They are in fifth either way. So I think this game is much more about putting in a good performance. NYC is one of the most challenging road trips, both because of the distance, and then when you're playing in the outfield of a baseball field, it's like the Citi Field, the Mets outfield is not like as weird of dimensions as Yankee Stadium, but it's still pretty weird. And it's a very narrow pitch, and MLS teams are not used to playing on dimensions like this, and it gives NYC one of the biggest home field advantages in the league in recent years. They have not been as good. They weren't as good last year, just in general, but this year it feels like they're back to being like the NYCFC that we're used to. I mean, the NYCFC, this is just they don't really get talked about that much, but they're every year it feels like they're one of the best teams in the East. And this is the fifth place team in the East, so it's kind of like the Eastern Conference version of the Sounders in that way, I guess, as far as where they are on the table. 17-11-5 record, +7 goal differential, and they're only 11-5 at home this year, so that's a solid road record, but it's not like ballistic. Seattle's 10-1-6 at home. But I guess the question becomes how you should approach this lineup wise, with the notion that you still got you got some guys injured, you got guys coming back, you should have more of your regular team. But I guess, how do you approach it? Do you throw out your fully first choice 11 with the intent of keeping everyone sharp and fit and everything before the playoffs and trying to put in a good performance? Or do you throw out a more rotated lineup with the idea of resting people? I kind of think that that's what they should do. I would be fully fine with seeing a lineup with some guys out there that haven't been getting a lot of minutes lately. And I think my main agenda on that train, you mentioned it earlier, but I think this is Stu Hawks should start this game. He got 30 minutes against Real Salt Lake. He did great. They called him too skinny. They said he couldn't do it. He went out there. He looked good to me. Like,
and he bulked up. I've been saying this. People don't listen to me. That dude, he was hitting the gym. That injury, I talked to Andy Rose for a little bit off the mics, and he's like, look, man, that injury happened, and it just gave him time to just bulk up, and he did, man. He looks good.
Stu Hawk's been grinding. I would love a Stu Hawks start, and I mean, he probably isn't 90 fit yet, but start Stu Hawks for 60, however long he's able to go. And then from there, I think I'm okay with the lineup having just that kind of tenor. I just think the team right now is it's been a little gassed since Leagues Cup. I think if we're looking at why the form has taken a bit of a downturn since Leagues Cup, that's probably like the injuries play a part in it. There's probably a mental component to it, but I think a big part of it is the physical, just drain that this long of a season has on you when you're playing your league season and a couple of different tournaments, including a tournament that you go all the way in. When you have opportunities to maybe get guys some rest, like I would not want Christian playing in this game. It's probably going to be the Christian Obed double pivot. Let's be real. But I would be okay if they didn't do that. What do you think? Like, how should they approach this one in the decision day in the Big Apple? It's exciting.
It is exciting. It's a great question, by the way. But it's on a player-to-player basis, and this is what Brian would tell us no matter what, is we're going to put the best 11 out there. And that in reality means we're going to look at the metrics. We're going to look at where guys are physically. Because look, if you look at Reed Baker Whiten, a guy that, he came on in the 79th minute in the U.S.'s loss against Morocco 3-1. He didn't play a lot of minutes in this tournament. He's a guy that you might want to play, obviously, at that left back position. Get him some more minutes, get him going, get him in the right direction. But a guy like Obed, that was a pillar for Mexico team that ended up losing their heads completely against Argentina and losing that game.
That? They got a red card, didn't they?
Yeah, they were fighting. They were elbowing guys. Yeah, no. I mean, Argentina is a team that just is going to get under your skin. And if you're not prepared for it, you're going to suffer. And then they also had an injury early goal. They just didn't have a great game. So I think it was a lot of frustration. But a guy like Obed that has played so many minutes that I'm sure would love to play. Maybe that's a guy that you rest in this one. Christian, he plays maybe tomorrow against Australia, so we'll still have to figure out whether he plays or not. If he does play, then depending on how many minutes he played, do you hold him? Maybe. So I think it's on a case-to-case basis, depending on where the players are at. But I do think that this is a very proud group. I think that it wouldn't be great for the Sounders to completely rotate and get, I don't know, beat down 4-0 right before the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's just bad momentum. So you do want to get a competitive group to play in New York City, who, by the way, is desperate because they need a win because they're trying to get up in the standings.
Yeah.
So they're going to go with everything they have. They're a good team, especially in transition. I think Alonso Martinez is very, very good. Nico's been great. I mean, that's a good team. So you want to make sure that you are competitive, as I'm sure there's no question about it. They're going to be out there and hopefully be competitive, but you definitely just don't want to rotate. And, I've heard just put the Tacoma Defiance and call it a day, right? I mean, you can't do that, right? You got to be able to stay competitive and get the guys that need minutes. I think JP is a guy that should start again, or just come in the second half and get more minutes, because you do want to revamp him up, continue to keep him at a high level. I thought Danny Leyva deserves a second chance, so I wouldn't mind that pivot repeating against New York City FC. But again, I think that the whole point is that you want to put a competitive group out there so you don't get beat down in New York.
Is Alonso Martinez the most underrated player in
I think he is.
I mean, this guy was ridiculous last year. He had 16 goals in 1,500 minutes. And then this year he's played 2,400 minutes for them, 17 goals. I mean,
let me put it to you like this. If he was not Costa Rican and he was Brazilian or Argentinian or English, I don't know, like they'd be all over this guy, but because he's from Costa Rica, and I mean, to be fair, how old is he? 26. I mean, he's still good, but I do think that a lot of times that passport weighs players down, and maybe that's what it is. But I'm with you. I think he's a great finisher. I love to have him, with the Sounders. Imagine the amount of goals that he would score.
That's the Moose replacement.
He'd kill. He would. You couldn't afford him now, but he would kill.
In this system would be absolutely nuclear. They got to find the U22 who's essentially Alonso Martinez but 22. How do you find that? How do you find that?
I wanted them to go for Nasser, which is the current 9 for Colombia. He got a hat trick though, and it's over. I mean, he's got his value just went up to like
off to the Prem.
It's over. He's going to be in Spain. I think it's Atletico, the one that was following him. So yeah, it's over now. It's over. He got a hat trick. It's done and over with. But a guy like that, I mean, there's a lot of interesting guys there in the U20.
Magno's asking, is Snyder B going to be back? I think Snyder's going to be back for this game, isn't he?
I believe so. Yes, I believe that this was just a camp in Spain. So
why did he have to miss that game for camp? Whatever, it's fine. They got to run the Danny Leyva JP double pivot, and it looked good. JP, we didn't mention it at all, but I thought JP was pretty. That's the closest he's looked to like 2022 JP since like 2022.
No. I definitely mentioned it because he was a guy that for me was just stellar. He was just so sharp on the ball. He understands the game at a different level. His decision making is so much quicker at times than others. I just thought he was on point. So he's a guy that I was very encouraged by what he could provide you moving forward.
It's going to be a good decision day. We got the Seattle game, I'm really I'm happy about the fact that there's every other time that they've been in this situation, it's been with like the number 2 seed on the line, or there's so much movement that's going to be taking place on the table where they could finish anywhere from, like this place to this place, and then every goal is so stressful. There's so much weight on everything, and it's fun, but it is like it's stressful. This time it's like they can go into this game and I think you want a good competitive performance, like you said, for momentum purposes, but it's not like the season or home field advantage or anything like that hangs on this. You're in 5th no matter what happens in this game, so that's kind of nice. And then there you got some. We're going to be able to kind of sit back and watch everyone else who is in that situation where their seating is on the line fight it out, and that always is exciting. But Nico, the game I'm looking the most forward to is the Wooden Spoon Bowl between Atlanta United and DC United at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. These two teams, they're fighting it out for the spoon down here at the bottom of the East. If DC United wins this game, they leap Atlanta, and Atlanta United would actually wooden spoon in a year after they spent $30 million bolstering their attack over the offseason. And if Atlanta ties or loses to, or if Atlanta ties or wins, they will avoid that fate. The fact that they're even playing for it, I think that kind of says enough, but it is still like the principle of it, right? Of getting the wooden spoon. They can't have that. So that's actually sneakily one of the biggest games of the weekend. But the whole league's going to be playing. You got Portland, San Diego. They're going to be going at it. The Whitecaps have FC Dallas. LAFC has the Colorado Rapids. So I think Seattle's
that's the big one for me. I think that's the one that everybody's going to be watching, because look, Minnesota plays the Galaxy, and if Minnesota wins and LAFC, just like they did this weekend, dropping points against Austin 1-0, LAFC would play Seattle. I believe they would drop in the standings because Minnesota would surpass them.
Yeah. And
that's not what we want. Or at least, I guess you could talk yourself into saying, well, there is, that underdog thing, it's going to be like 2019 and nobody believes in us. Maybe, but I don't want it. But I feel like that's a big game because, again, LAFC drop points against Austin, is going to be at Colorado. Colorado is a team that at times looks really good, a lot of times looks really poor. They got some quality players. So, man, I'm going to be just watching that one. That one is the big game for me that I'll be watching. I think Minnesota should be able to get over the Galaxy, who also got a bit of a funky win against Dallas, because Dallas was done wrong. Farrington gets a red card that he did not deserve. It changes the game completely. And then the Galaxy end up winning that game 2-1 with a very good game from Gabriel Peck. So, yeah, they got put into a bad position, Dallas did. So now I don't know. Galaxy against Minnesota, it could be anybody's game. But those are the two games that I feel like if you're a Seattle Sounders fan, you're going to be watching.
So, yeah, let's just hit this to close it out. Jake is saying, can we spend some minutes on who we want to face in round one, San Diego, Minnesota, or LAFC? That's kind of what you were getting at. That is what is on the line for this decision day for Seattle, is who they're going to be playing in that 4th spot, and it could be any of those teams that Jake mentioned. I've been saying, I'm curious where you land on this. I've been saying, give me Minnesota. I think that's the team that I feel like Seattle has the best chance against, frankly. I know that Minnesota beat them twice this year, but I almost feel like that it's pretty hard to beat a team 3 times in a row, first of all. And I also, I've been saying that I felt like that second game in Minnesota, I know they lost, but it was like, I felt like they figured out how to crack the Minnesota United code way better than they did in the first game. And I would rather play a team that plays against the ball all the time like they do than I would a team that's got like LAFC and San Diego. We're talking about like just crazy firepower. We're talking about Denny Bouanga and Son Heung-min. We're talking about Anders Dreyer and Chucky Lozano. Like over a 3-game series, that much firepower, it's hard to keep that quiet for that period of time. So I'm hella rooting for it to be the Loons. It's not like it's still any team that you play in the playoffs is going to be a really hard, talented, difficult opponent. In this case, Seattle is for sure going to be playing someone who finished ahead of them in the standings. But that's the one that I circled. Do you see that different?
No, it's Minnesota, and it's not even close because look, they have been struggling over the last 5 games. They have not been the same team of before for several reasons. They've lost players. Tanny's gone. Obviously, they sold them. Yeboah has been hurt. They've been so bleak offensively that right now their 2 strikers or forwards, attackers up top are Pereira, who's not that, and then Lod, who isn't that either, but he's just a very versatile player.
Whenever they're in a like tough roster situation with injuries or
they go to Lod.
Maybe they go to Lod. It could be left back, it could be D mid, it could be at the 10, it could be on the wing, it could be up top, it could be in goal. You don't know. They're just going to play him wherever.
You don't know. So they lost 3-0 against Chicago. They tied 1-1 against Colorado. They obviously lost the U.S. Open Cup final against Austin, semifinal against Austin. So they've been struggling. And now they beat Sporting Kansas City 3-0, but Sporting Kansas City is awful. They're so bad that Minnesota actually won in possession and chances created. That's how bad Sporting Kansas City is. That they allow Minnesota to beat them in possession and chances. So I do think that there's only one answer to that, and it's Minnesota. Again, I think you could talk yourself into saying, well, if you beat LAFC and then all of a sudden you take out a 1 and you are creating better chances to moving forward, maybe hosting a couple of games. Yeah, like in theory, that sounds awesome. But in reality, you don't want San Diego. You don't want LAFC. I think most of those teams, in my opinion, Seattle doesn't match up well with either one of those teams. Regardless of the Sounders beating, obviously, San Diego once this year, I just don't know. I don't think that the Sounders match up well against either one of those teams. So don't give me San Diego. Don't give me LAFC, which I guess San Diego we shouldn't be talking about because they're not going to drop. But regardless of, Minnesota is that right answer.
What do you think of this? It's the second year, right, of this format where they do the first round. That's the best of 3 series.
I hate it.
I think the argument for it is it's kind of resembles more of like a traditional Americanized like playoff system. In baseball and basketball, you have like series like this. So they're doing that. I just think that like these series that go to like game 3, the same team 3 times in a row, that's too much in soccer. I don't understand for the life of me why they wouldn't. What was wrong with the years where they just did home and away, two match series, home and away, aggregate scoring? What was wrong?
I have no idea.
That was
I don't know. I don't know if it was a TV thing or what.
If you want to do multiple games in round 1, just do that.
Yeah. Just do 2 legs. Just keep it simple, keep it normal. Each side gets 1 game, it's over, right? I don't get it. I know that they were probably, if I recall some of those conversations from when they decided to this, it was about not only adding 1 game to each side, but then it adds like it makes sure that teams can't just bunker down and, play, hold off and then just play better in the second game and there's less goals, whole bunch of nonsense. But yeah, I hate it. I hate this series. I feel like it's unnecessary. I feel like it prolongs this first round. So yeah, I don't like it. Not one little bit, but it is what we get.
All right, Nico, we are about out of time. Let's call it right there. Thank you all so much, as always, for tuning in to Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. Apologies for a bit of a late start this morning, but we got it done. We got that content out there. We weren't going to leave you guys hanging. So
we got cooking. I think we hit all our points today.
We got a good show laid down for you. Everyone who's still here watching, please like the video, sub to the channel. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok. We'll be back at it this week for all your decision day preview coverage. I'll be at it on Under the Lights on Thursday. And then also some exciting news. I don't think I hadn't even told you about this yet, Nico, but we're going to be marathoning for Decision Day. We're going to do like a live show watch along where we're going to be tracking all the games and I'm going to be doing my broadcast commentary. I'm a really high level good broadcaster, as some of you.
Oh, all right.
It's like when we're doing watch alongs, I like commentate the games like I'm a broadcaster, but I'm like, I'm not a broadcaster, so it's kind of a bit like that. But we're going to be doing all that fun stuff, and what we're going to try to do is have like a rotating cast of characters tap in while we're streaming. So Nico, I expect you to be tapping in at least for a few minutes at some point, watch the games with us, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That is that we were talking about it yesterday. We are like, should we do something like that? And then we were like, yeah, let's do it. It's Decision Day, and we haven't done a watch along in a bit, and the watch along content's been pretty popular. So that'll be going down on Saturday, and before then, I'll have Under the Lights as well. Maybe try and line up a New York City guest. So appreciate you guys, and Nico, thanks for tapping in as always, man. Great show.
Thank you, man. That was good, and I'll hop on. I'll hop on the live show.
Hell yeah, let's go.
At least for a little bit.
I will catch you guys on Thursday. And then on Sunday after that. We'll see you then. Peace.
Some people come to Lumen Field for the tactics, for the soccer, the atmosphere. And some come for Paul Rothrock's hair. Me personally, I come for both, because I have agendas to push. Live soccer isn't just better, it's way more personal. From making friends to becoming the guy in your section that's just constantly yelling about advanced statistics. Get tickets to any Sounders match by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/tickets. You support the pod, our agendas, the vibes, and the chaos.